SpaceX's first Block 3 Starship Booster 18 is making rapid progress. We have a progress report on the Masey's test site. How long until we can continue? McGregor just yeeted a COPV into the sky on purpose, Boeing is building satellites to survive a nuclear war, and China wants to orbit Neptune. My name is Felix, welcome to What About It, let's dive right in. Boeing has secured a $2.8 billion contract from the US Space Force to build two of the most important satellites in the country's defense playbook. These are definitely not your typical communications satellites. This is the next generation of nuclear-hardened, jam-resistant strategic relays built to keep the chain of command connected even in the middle of a nuclear war. The contract is part of the Evolved Strategic Satcom Program, or ESS, which is being developed to replace the outdated AEHF system. That stands for Advanced Extremely High Frequency Satellites, which have served as the backbone of US nuclear command and control since 2010. They were a significant leap forward when they first launched. And they provided highly secure, survivable global communications for national leaders, strategic forces, and allies. But as cyber threats, signal interference, and anti-satellite weapons have all evolved, the architecture behind AEHF is already showing its age. ESS is the response to that. It's a new class of satellite that not only continues the mission of AEHF, but also rethinks how strategic communications work in an increasingly contested orbital environment. What sets ESS apart is its modular design and resilience-first approach. These satellites are being purpose-built with modern threats in mind, from electromagnetic pulses and jamming to cyber attacks and space-based interception. Boeing's version emphasizes flexibility and scalability with the ability to expand the constellation over time. There's already an option for 2 additional satellites beyond the first pair, and future variants could extend coverage to the Arctic, which is becoming increasingly strategically important. This deal also signals a broader shift inside the Pentagon. While LEO constellations grow, strategic systems like ESS rely on geostationary orbit for global coverage and greater survivability without thousands of satellites. It's probably a good thing if 2 satellites cost that much. It's a reminder that even as space becomes more commercialized, certain layers of national security remain highly specialized and extremely expensive. Boeing beating out Northrop Grumman shows that this sector is still very much dominated by old space players. Budgets should be closely monitored. Starship Updates. On Monday, we saw something that we may not ever see again in upcoming Starship Booster assemblies. Specifically, Block 3 boosters will have a much larger and wider landing header tank that houses the downcomer pipe, which then connects to their liquid oxygen header tank. The tank is in fact so big it almost looks like a miniature Super Heavy booster or a Falcon 9. SpaceX rolled out Booster 18's landing tank from the Star Factory and into Mega Bay 1, where the booster is currently undergoing stacking. To raise it vertically, they attached cables from a crane to the lift points and then moved the transport underneath it. It makes sense that this entire section is larger than its Block 2 predecessors, given that Block 3 boosters will have more engines, more propellant, and weight. More weight means more propellant for a landing is needed. Booster 18 is the first ever Block 3 booster prototype being built, and the installation of this critical piece of infrastructure shows that SpaceX is getting closer and closer to completing the stack. I am expecting it to roll out for the first cryo tests within the next 4, maybe 6 weeks. Block 3 is coming. Remember Ship 36 and the explosion? I mean, of course you do. Now here's some insight on the ongoing investigation. If something goes wrong with any piece of hardware, SpaceX wastes no time in recreating the issue and testing out the problems that caused it in the first place. That seems to be the only explanation for this odd sight at the McGregor test site on Saturday. What appears to be a large COPV was launched very high into the air before falling back to the ground. From what we can see, no cows were harmed in the process. Ship 36's unfortunate demise at Masey's has been speculated to have happened because of a COPV issue. This was echoed by both Elon Musk the morning after the accident and SpaceX's official explanation later. Specifically, the COPV in question failed below its rated pressure maximum. It's logical that technicians in McGregor are recreating the setting in which Ship 36 exploded and testing similar COPVs at various pressure points. What happened here was likely a so-called test to failure. This COPV wasn't launched, even if it looks like it. They raised the pressure more and more until it ruptured, causing it to fly off into the sky. It is good to see them working through the problem. Here is to hoping it never happens again. Irritating phone calls and those pesky spam emails have become a serious annoyance. The bad news is that it is only getting worse. This phenomenon is driven by ruthless data brokers making a living out of selling your personal data. Meet Incogni, the sponsor of today's video. Incogni can help you win back your data security. The desire for better data protection is shared by almost half of all Americans. And more than 3/4 of Americans fear hackers stealing their financial data. Guess what? I'm one of them. And in Incogni I found a reliable partner for data privacy. It ensures your personal data remains just what it should be, safe and secure. This perfect and powerful solution is working in the background, ensuring your personal data truly remains personal. I mean, duh. Expect no less than a fully automated service that is incredibly easy to use. Just sign up and grant Incogni permission to track down the data brokers. Once targets have been identified, it can even handle removal requests for you while you sit back and watch it work. Enjoy that good feeling knowing your data is actively protected at all times. Gone are the days of endless spam calls and emails. Just like having a personal data security officer being on watch to protect your privacy. Join me at incogni.com/Felix and take control of your personal data with Incogni. Use code Felix at the link below to get 60% off an annual plan. I love this special offer because it really makes a difference. That is incogni.com/Felix to enjoy personal privacy while supporting us here at Y. You never know what you'll find being worked on at the Sanchez site at Starbase. It is currently the home for the ship's quick disconnect arm, which still hasn't received any internal plumbing work for quite some time. And it is a good indicator for Pad 2 progress. When SpaceX finishes this piece, a move to the launch site and integration into Tower 2 isn't far away. It makes sense for SpaceX to save this critical piece of hardware for the end of Pad 2's build phase. Pad 2 is progressing steadily. Not far from it at the work site are what appear to be new turntables being built potentially for the future Gigabay. The difference between these and past ones is the color and design. A supportive ring structure surrounds an internal hexagon-shaped layout. The new design may streamline the process of rotating and fastening ring sections during stacking, especially now that Block 3 is rapidly approaching. It'll also likely make lining up welding lines and sections easier. You can see here what looks to be one complete one, a partially completed structure, and components for at least 3 more. Turntables are what prototype pieces of the ship and booster sit on and rotate while techs work on fleshing them out. Since everything at Starbase is now shifting towards the Block 3 workflow, it is safe to assume these are as well. Contrary to public perception, mass production is going to be the biggest hurdle in the Starship design process, not reaching orbit. Mass producing the largest rocket in the world requires construction methods that simply don't exist in aerospace. This is the first rocket development project to attempt that. On top, for added difficulty, it is the largest rocket ever and it is supposed to be fully reusable. That sure doesn't make it easier. Each megabay has space for 5 ships and boosters, so we could see at least 10 of these built for the existing bays. Moving to the launch site, overhead shots of Pad 1 and the launch table show that none of its clamps have been removed, which tells us that the ship transport ring will likely be integrated on top of these for any future Starship static fire testing at the pad. Close-up shots of the ship transport ring at the site reveal what appear to be Raptor vacuum engine mounting brackets being welded to the side of the structure. This is to help keep the engine secure as they are testing. There is justifiable concern and risk over using Stage 0 for static fires. It's the only functioning launch site SpaceX has for Starships. And the rework of the Masey's test site for static fires is still a bit into the future. There's no news on an improvised ship quick disconnect yet. They might be able to solve this just by extending hoses from the booster quick disconnect and an adapter plate on the ship itself. But maybe, since SpaceX is so close to Block 3 testing anyway, they won't even do static fires on ships 37 and 38 before their launches. Another option is to simply spin prime test the engines and use the launches themselves as the static fire test. I want to emphasize this is pure speculation on my part, it is just to suggest a possible way forward. That way, there is less additional risk of something going wrong at the pad during a static fire anomaly and delaying a launch for weeks and months. But what's the difference? A spin prime test is where the engine's turbopumps are spun up using inert gas, but no actual ignition occurs. In simple terms, it's rehearsing the start without lighting the fire, whereas a static fire is lighting the fire while the rocket stays grounded. Or in this case, on the makeshift test stand, which is also your launch stand. That's why a spin prime might be enough here. SpaceX already has deep flight data from earlier Block 2 launches, but they could always use more. All they really need to know is if the engines will start. They know a lot more now about how they behave, and the troubles that felled Flight 9 dealt more with tank leaks and a stuck payload door. SpaceX is known for taking risks. With full stack Block 3 vehicles construction ramping up, there may be little left to prove with Ship 37 and 38 beyond verifying that everything functions as expected. Launch fever actually is justifiably here. Just get these two launched and get us to Block 3. That would preserve the pad, reduce exposure and keep the schedule moving, all without sacrificing too much confidence in vehicle readiness. Before we continue, hit the subscribe button to stay informed. Like this video if it brought you value and become a wise supporter for extra content. Secure your access to up to 7 picture galleries per week, satellite, helicopter and ground photos and 3D animations, chat with me and gain more insights on the topic you love. The entire team is waiting for you, you rock! The Chinese space program just laid out a bold proposal, a mission to Neptune launching in 2033. If it gets the green light, it would be China's first attempt at sending a spacecraft into the outer solar system, specifically to orbit the most distant planet we've ever visited up close, not counting Pluto. The current concept calls for a nuclear electric powered orbiter that would launch in late August 2033, slingshot past Jupiter and arrive at Neptune by 2038. Even though the journey takes 5 years, that would be extremely short. Once there, it would enter into a polar orbit just 1,000 kilometers above Neptune's cloud tops, deploy an atmospheric probe and conduct a close flyby of Neptune's largest moon, Triton, a geologically active body believed to host a subsurface ocean. This is a major leap for China, which has never sent a mission beyond Mars. But it's also a reflection of a growing scientific interest in ice giants. Ice what? Neptune and Uranus are the least explored planets in our solar system, with only a single flyby from Voyager 2 back in 1989. What secrets could they be hiding? That means we're still largely in the dark about their internal structure, magnetic fields, ring dynamics, and the full story behind moons like Triton, one of the most intriguing ocean world candidates in the solar system. And there's another reason this timing matters. NASA had originally considered a flagship Neptune mission called Neptune Odyssey for the 2030s, but ultimately prioritized Uranus instead. That opens the door for China to fill the gap and to plant its flag in one of the most scientifically valuable corners of the solar system before anyone else. If this moves forward, it would not only give scientists unprecedented data on Neptune's chaotic atmosphere and extreme magnetic environment. It would also mark China's arrival as a serious player in deep space exploration. China is at a point where it will pretty much try to do whatever the US won't try, and they'll likely succeed. The US Air Force has suspended its plans to build cargo rocket landing pads on Johnston Atoll, a remote island in the Pacific Ocean that's both ecologically fragile and historically significant. The goal was to test whether space-based cargo systems could deliver up to 100 tons of equipment or supplies to isolated areas in under 90 minutes using commercial rockets like those developed by SpaceX. On paper, the concept was cutting edge. Install 2 pads, conduct up to 10 landings a year and evaluate how well these rapid logistics missions could work in real-world settings. But almost immediately the project ran into resistance. Johnston Atoll isn't just an empty rock in the ocean, but a wildlife refuge and critical habitat for over a dozen species of nesting seabirds. Biologists warned that repeated rocket landings could disrupt or destroy sensitive breeding grounds. And they're probably right. That environmental pushback quickly gained momentum. A petition gathered thousands of signatures and the required environmental review was delayed. This week, the Air Force confirmed it's halting the project at Johnston Atoll entirely while it searches for alternative locations. Other sites like Midway or Wake Island are now being considered, but no decisions have been made. This high-priority rocket cargo project was paused not by technical limits but by ecological ones. The vision of delivering supplies anywhere on Earth in under 2 hours is compelling, but putting it into practice means navigating not just global terrain but regulatory and environmental limits as well. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter just pulled off a move you wouldn't expect from a spacecraft launched nearly 2 decades ago. Engineers have taught it to perform 120-degree backward rolls, spinning the spacecraft almost completely upside down to improve the performance of one of its key instruments. That instrument is SHARAD, the shallow radar sounder which scans beneath the surface of Mars to search for hidden layers of water ice. Because SHARAD is mounted on the back of the spacecraft, its radar beam has often been partially blocked by the orbiter's own structure, leading to interference and reduced clarity. It's a classic design flaw, happens to NASA too. But with these new large rolls, SHARAD gets an unobstructed view of the surface. The result is a radar signal that comes through 10 times stronger and reaches deeper underground than ever before. This opens up regions of Mars that were previously off limits, and that could be very significant. Finding water ice near the surface isn't just useful for understanding Mars' climate history. It could also be vital for future human missions, providing a local source of water, oxygen, and even rocket fuel. And there's even a bonus benefit. With the Mars Climate Sounder's gimbal wearing out, these spacecraft rolls now help it keep aim toward the horizon. These 120-degree rolls are risky. It can't contact Earth and sunlight is reduced, so engineers plan them carefully to preserve power. What began as a workaround is now a multi-benefit maneuver that boosts the mission's science. Nearly 20 years into its journey, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is still learning new tricks. That is an incredible mission. The European Space Agency has just reached a major milestone in its effort to build independent, competitive space launch capabilities. Rocket Factory Augsburg was announced as one of the winners of its European Launcher Challenge. This follows the June announcement of 5 pre-selected contenders: ISA Aerospace, Maya Space, Orbiter I Express Launch, PLD Space, and Rocket Factory Augsburg. ESA launched this challenge in November 2023 to reduce Europe's dependency on non-European launch systems and to spur innovation among homegrown companies. The goal was to secure launch service contracts for 2026 to 2030 and fund the development of flight-ready systems. Each company could receive up to 169 million euros. Rocket Factory Augsburg stood out among the pre-selected group during the rigorous technical and business evaluations. Their approach is centered around RFA-1, a small-lift, low-cost and highly automated launch system that's been under development for several years. The company pitched 2 configurations during the selection. First, RFA-1 Block 1, their baseline vehicle, is being prepped for a first test flight later this year. It's designed to carry up to 1,350 kilograms to low Earth orbit, launching from sites like Saxaford in Scotland. Second, they committed to a demonstration of Block 2, a future upgrade of the vehicle with increased payload capacity, greater flexibility, and the potential to serve a wider range of ESA missions. By offering a pathway from proven launch capability to scalable performance, RFA positioned itself as more than just a startup, but as a potential workhorse for Europe's institutional missions. This decision shows ESA's commitment to a broad, modern launcher ecosystem stretching from startups to established firms. Looking ahead, ESA member states will finalize funding at the Council of Ministers in November 2025. Rocket Factory Augsburg will move into the demonstration phase while the other 4 companies remain in competition, ready to stage a comeback or proceed depending on their remaining evaluation. This marks a shift in Europe's space strategy. They are now combining innovation with sovereignty, steadily positioning Europe to launch its own satellites on European-built rockets from European soil. That's it for today. Before watching the bloopers, remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. There's something for everyone. Link is in the description and in the card you should see now. And if you want to learn more, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Or hidden layers of the icy. None of its champs. Hey champ! I'm expecting to roll out for the first cryo test. No!